Matt Winslow's fingers drummed against his steering wheel as he squinted at the house numbers through the gathering dusk. The GPS had led him into one of those LA suburbs where every lawn looked like it had its own personal stylist, and the mailboxes probably cost more than his monthly salary. "This has to be a scam," he muttered, double-checking the rental listing on his phone. The price was still there, $1,500 for a three-bedroom house in Beverly Hills adjacent. He'd been apartment hunting for weeks since Jennifer had kept their condo in the divorce, and nothing legitimate came close to this price point. His phone buzzed. Another message from his ex-wife. "When are you picking up the rest of your stuff?" Matt ignored it, pulling up to the curb of 1422 Magnolia Drive. The house was perfect. Too perfect. Craftsman style with a wraparound porch, neat flower beds, and warm lights glowing in the windows. At this price, he'd expected at least a few red flags. Peeling paint, broken windows, maybe a family of raccoons doing CrossFit in the front yard. A tall figure emerged from the front door, and Matt's first thought was that someone had hired an actress to play the landlord. She moved with the kind of grace you usually only saw in old movies, wearing what looked like an evening gown at 6 p.m. on a Tuesday. As he got out of his car, the porch light caught her skin, and he blinked hard. Was she purple? "Mr. Winslow!" Her voice had an accent he couldn't place, musical and strange. "How delightful to meet you in the flesh. I am Madame Victoria." She extended her hand and Matt found himself shaking it automatically. Her skin was definitely purple, a deep, rich violet that couldn't be makeup. Must be some weird lighting effect. "The pictures don't do it justice," he said, gesturing at the house. "No, they don't." Madame Victoria's eyes seemed to glow slightly as she studied him. "And you, Mr. Winslow, your profile was most intriguing. Such excellent genetic markers." "My what?" "Your rental application, of course." She waved a hand dismissively. "Shall we begin the tour? I have a feeling you'll find everything quite suitable." The interior was even better than the outside. Hardwood floors, updated kitchen, a living room that actually had a fireplace. Matt's brain kept trying to find the catch, but everything was immaculate. "So," he ventured as they reached the master bedroom, "about the price?" "Yes?" Madame Victoria's smile was enigmatic. "Is it not agreeable?" "It's incredible. But why so low? This place should rent for 3 times that amount." "Let's just say I have specific requirements for my tenants." She produced a thick contract from somewhere in her flowing garments. "Single men between 35 and 45, professionally employed, no criminal record, excellent health." Matt's eyes narrowed. "That sounds discriminatory." "Oh, it's perfectly legal, I assure you. We have special dispensation." She held out an ornate pen. "The house is yours if you want it. Just sign here, and here, and here." Matt hesitated. Something about this whole situation felt off. The too-perfect house, the strange landlady with her purple skin, must be some kind of skin condition. The price that defied all logic. But then his phone buzzed again. Another text from Jennifer. "The movers are coming Friday. Get your stuff, or it's going to Goodwill." Matt grabbed the pen and signed. Madame Victoria's smile widened as she watched Matt sign each page, her luminous eyes tracking the pen's movement with unsettling intensity. The contract was unusually thick for a rental agreement, with blocks of tiny text in what looked like multiple languages. "Wonderful." She clapped her hands together, the sound echoing strangely in the empty house. "Now there are just a few minor details to discuss regarding the living arrangements." "Living arrangements?" Matt glanced up from initialing yet another page. "I thought it was just me renting the house." "Oh, of course, of course." She waved her hand dismissively. "Nothing to concern yourself with now. Just some standard clauses about cohabitation and domestic harmony. All very routine." Matt's attention snagged on a paragraph written in what appeared to be glowing ink. "What's this part about intergalactic diplomatic relations?" "Legal boilerplate." Madame Victoria smoothly slid that page away and presented him with another. "Now this section about shared meals and cultural exchange activities." Look, Matt interrupted, fatigue from weeks of house hunting making him bold. Is there something weird going on here? Because I've got to tell you, between the purple skin and the glowing contract, do you want the house or not, Mr. Winslow? Her tone remained pleasant, but something in those luminous eyes made him swallow hard. Because I assure you, there are many other candidates who would be delighted to sign without asking quite so many questions. Matt thought about his ex-wife's texts, about the cramped extended stay hotel room he'd been living in for the past month, about his dwindling bank account. He thought about this beautiful house with its impossible price tag. Where do I sign? 20 minutes later, Matt stood in his new living room, keys in hand, still trying to process what had just happened. Madame Victoria had swept out as dramatically as she'd arrived, leaving behind a thick folder labeled House Rules and Cultural Integration Guidelines that he'd deal with later. Right now, all he wanted was sleep. He'd drive back to the hotel, grab his bags, and finally have a real home again. No more Jennifer's passive-aggressive texts, no more hotel coffee, no more... His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Hello? Welcome home, husband. A female voice, musical like Madame Victoria's, but younger, more playful. I'm so excited to meet you tomorrow morning. Mother says your genetic profile is absolutely perfect. What? Who is this? But the line was already dead. Matt stared at his phone, then at the house rules folder, then back at his phone. Something was definitely off about this whole situation. But it was late, he was tired, and whatever weirdness was going on could wait until morning. He should have read the folder. The next morning, Matt returned early, his car packed with the sad remains of his married life. Some clothes, his laptop, a box of tech books Jennifer had deemed too boring to keep. He'd planned to have coffee and really dig into that folder of house rules before unpacking. What he hadn't planned on was finding someone already in his kitchen. She was facing away from him, humming softly while doing something at the stove. Long silver hair cascaded down her back, catching the morning light like liquid mercury. She wore what appeared to be a silk robe that left very little to the imagination, and her skin was the same impossible violet shade as Madame Victoria's. Said Matt intelligently. She turned and Matt forgot how to breathe. Her face was extraordinary, delicate features, full lips curved in a knowing smile, and eyes that literally glowed with an inner light. The robe did even less for modesty from the front. Good morning, husband, she beamed at him. I'm making breakfast. Do you prefer your eggs scrambled or fertilized? Matt's brain took several attempts to reboot. I'm sorry, what? Who are you? And why are you calling me husband? Oh, silly me. She glided across the kitchen and extended her hand exactly as her mother had the night before. I'm Zilaria, but you can call me Zai, and I'm calling you husband because, well... She gestured at the kitchen counter, where his rental contract lay open to a page he definitely hadn't read carefully enough. In glowing ink, the text clearly stated, this contract serves as both a rental agreement and a binding marriage certificate under the Intergalactic Refugee Integration Act of 2023. Matt's legs gave out. He sat down hard on one of the kitchen chairs. This is a joke, right? Some kind of elaborate prank? Did Jennifer put you up to this? Z's luminous eyes dimmed slightly. Oh dear, Mother said you might need some time to adjust to the concept. Would you like some coffee while I explain about the refugee program? I've studied Earth customs extensively, and I know humans need caffeine for important conversations. Before Matt could respond, she had somehow produced a perfect cup of coffee, the exact way he liked it, which he definitely hadn't told her. The aroma hit his nose, and his traitor hand reached for it automatically. How did you... Telepathic abilities, she said cheerfully. Don't worry, I only pick up surface thoughts and strong desires, like how you're trying very hard not to notice how this robe clings when I move. Matt choked on his coffee. Now, Z continued, perching on the counter in a way that made the robe situation even more precarious. Let me explain about my people. We're refugees from a planet called Zelvira. Due to certain cultural requirements, unmarried females must live under the protection of a male guardian. Your government has been very understanding about helping us maintain our traditions while we integrate into Earth society. By tricking men into marriage via rental contracts, Matt's voice rose several octaves. Not tricking. Z looked genuinely hurt. Everything was in the contract. It's not our fault Earthmen don't read the glowing paragraphs. Beside, her smile turned mischievous, Mother chose you specifically. Said your genetic profile was perfect for enhancing the bloodline? The what line? Oh, look at the time. Z hopped off the counter with impossible grace. I have to get ready for my online xenobiology class. We'll talk more later, husband. She pressed a quick kiss to his cheek as she passed, her lips leaving a tingling sensation that definitely wasn't normal. Matt sat in the kitchen for a long time after she'd gone, staring at his coffee and trying to process. He had to get out of this contract, had to find some way to void it. He was not ready to be married again, especially not to an alien who could read his thoughts and probably wanted to lay eggs or something. He grabbed the contract and flipped to the final pages, looking for cancellation clauses. His eye caught on a paragraph in that same glowing ink. Notice, any attempt to void this contract without proper cause will be considered an act of diplomatic aggression against the Zelviran people and may result in immediate interplanetary sanctions. Below that, in smaller text, proper cause does not include fear of commitment, species prejudice, or concerns about telepathic invasion of privacy. For a complete list of acceptable contract termination reasons, please consult the Intergalactic Code of Marriage Law, Volume 47, Section 9.3. Matt's head thunked against the kitchen table. Somewhere upstairs, he could hear Z singing in a language that made his ears tingle. What the hell had he gotten himself into? Matt spent the next hour frantically Googling Intergalactic Refugee Integration Act and alien marriage laws, which yielded nothing but conspiracy theory websites and some questionable fan fiction. His phone had somehow reprogrammed itself overnight. There was now an app called Zelcom that he couldn't delete, and his weather app was showing forecasts for places he was pretty sure weren't on Earth. A text notification popped up from mother-in-law. Dear son-in-law, don't forget about the traditional first-day feast tonight. Z will explain the customs. Do try to keep an open mind about the tentacles. They're considered a delicacy. He was about to throw his phone across the room when Z floated back into the kitchen, now wearing what appeared to be a business suit that somehow managed to be more provocative than the robe. How was your class? Matt heard himself ask, because apparently his brain had decided this was all normal now. Oh, fascinating. We're studying human reproductive biology. She beamed at him. Would you like to help me with my homework later? No, look, we need to talk about this situation. Matt stood up, trying to project authority despite being fairly certain she could read his rising panic. I can't be married. I just got divorced. I'm not ready for... Is it because I'm purple? Z's lower lip trembled. Mother said some humans might be chromophobic, but I hoped... What? No! It's not about your color. It's about the fact that I signed a rental agreement and somehow ended up with an alien wife. Well, technically, under Zelviran law, we're only in the preliminary bonding phase, Z explained, materializing a cup of tea from somewhere. The full marriage ceremony requires the exchange of essences under the triple moons, and Earth only has one moon, so we'll have to wait for the proper astronomical alignment. Should only take about 6 Earth months. Matt dropped his head into his hands. There is no way I'm exchanging essences with anyone. That's what Mother said you'd say. She also said to remind you about Section 47B of the contract, the part about diplomatic incidents. Z sipped her tea innocently. Did you know that Zelviran technology is the only thing keeping Earth's internet running? It would be such a shame if there was a disruption. Are you blackmailing me with global internet shutdown? Blackmail is such an ugly word. Z wrinkled her nose. I prefer aggressive negotiation. Besides, I'm an excellent wife. I can cook, clean, manipulate probability fields, and I've studied all the traditional human mating rituals. Would you like me to demonstrate the one called Netflix and chill? Before Matt could respond to that terrifying offer, his phone buzzed again. Jennifer. Look, I need to take this, he said, grabbing for an excuse to escape this conversation. Of course, husband. I'll just finish unpacking my quantum wardrobe. Don't worry if you hear any interdimensional rifts opening. That's completely normal. Matt practically ran to the front porch before answering the phone. Hello? Matt, where are you? The movers are here and... Jennifer paused. Why do I hear singing in 15-dimensional harmonics? What? I don't hear anything. He absolutely heard it. The walls were starting to shimmer slightly. I'll be there in an hour to get my stuff. Fine, but are you okay? You sound weird, like that time you accidentally drank that energy drink that turned out to be spacecraft fuel. That was one time in college. Matt pinched the bridge of his nose. Everything's fine. Totally normal. Just regular human stuff happening here. He hung up before Jennifer could ask any more questions, then turned to find Zai standing in the doorway, looking concerned. Your ex-mate seems nice, she said, though her aura could use some alignment. Should I come with you to help move your belongings? I can fold space-time to make everything fit in one trip. No! Matt took a deep breath. I mean, thank you, but I should probably handle this alone. You know, human style. Oh, right. Z nodded enthusiastically. Mother's Cultural Integration Manual mentions this. Human males often need to perform physical labor to assert their dominance. Would you like me to pretend to be impressed by your lifting technique? I've been practicing my admiring gasps. Matt fled to his car. The drive to Jennifer's gave him time to think, which was possibly not a good thing. He kept circling back to the same questions. How many other aliens were living on Earth? Was this happening to other unsuspecting renters? And why did Z have to be so distractingly attractive? He was so lost in thought that he almost missed the fact that his car's navigation system was now showing routes through what it called hyperspatial shortcuts and offering to fold local space-time for optimal arrival. When he finally reached the condo, Jennifer was waiting outside with her arms crossed. You look terrible, she said by way of greeting. And why is your car glowing? It's not glowing, it's just new paint. Very reflective. Matt tried to position himself to block her view of the dashboard, which was definitely displaying some non-Earth standard measurements. Where's my stuff? Jennifer gave him a long look. In the garage. But seriously, Matt, what's going on with you? First you rent someplace in Beverly Hills that you definitely can't afford, and now your car is speaking in tongues. It's not... Wait, what? He turned around to find his car's entertainment system cheerfully playing what sounded like a Zelverin pop song, complete with colors he was pretty sure humans couldn't actually see. Just an experimental radio station, he said weakly. Very avant-garde. European, probably. Right. Jennifer's eyes narrowed. You know you can talk to me if you're in some kind of trouble, or if you've joined a cult. Again. That was a tech startup, not a cult. And I'm fine. Everything's fine. Just going through some changes. Your watch is counting down to something called Essence Exchange. Matt yanked his sleeve down. New fitness app. Very holistic. He spent the next 20 minutes throwing his remaining possessions into the car as quickly as possible, while trying to ignore the helpful suggestions from his now apparently sentient vehicle about optimal packing patterns across multiple dimensions. When he finally got back to the house, Z was in the front yard chatting with the neighbors. This would have been fine if she hadn't been floating 3 feet off the ground while doing it. Oh, honey, you're home. She drifted over to help with the boxes. I was just telling the Johnsons about how we met. Don't worry, I stuck to the official cover story about the rental agreement. Didn't mention anything about Mother's genetic compatibility algorithms or the intergalactic dating database. The Johnsons waved cheerfully. Their skin had a distinctly greenish tinge that Matt was almost certain hadn't been there this morning. How many aliens are in this neighborhood? He hissed as they carried boxes inside. Oh, loads, Z said brightly. Earth is very popular with the interstellar refugee community. Good climate, nice locals, and hardly any dimensional predators. Though you might want to avoid Mrs. Peterson at 1426, she's going through a molting cycle and gets a bit snippy about property lines. Matt dropped a box. Is anyone in this neighborhood actually human? The mailman. Z paused. No, wait, he's from Alpha Centauri. Oh, the dog at 1419 is definitely Earth native, unless you count the cybernetic enhancements. This can't be happening, Matt muttered, sinking onto the couch. I'm having a breakdown. Too much stress from the divorce. Probably hallucinating. Z sat next to him, patting his hand sympathetically. Where their skin touched, Little sparks of electricity danced between them. Would it help if I made you some coffee? Or I could adjust your neural patterns to accept this new reality more easily. Though last time I tried that on a human, they spent a week convinced they were a quantum physicist, which they technically were, just in a different dimension. Matt stared at their joined hands, watching the ethereal light play across their skin. Why me? Out of all the humans you could have, married, why pick some divorced IT guy? Z's expression softened. Because you're kind and lonely, and you have this wonderful capacity for wonder that you've been trying to suppress under all that cynicism. Also, your genetic profile suggests our offspring would have excellent telepathic range and possibly the ability to manipulate probability fields. Our what? Oh, look at the time. Z jumped up. We should start preparing for the first day feast. Mother will be here in a few hours, and we need to align the dining room with the correct cosmic frequencies. Don't worry about the tentacles. They're mostly decorative. As she danced off to presumably rearrange reality in the dining room, Matt pulled out his phone and opened the contract again. There had to be a way out of this that wouldn't cause an interplanetary incident. The text seemed to shift and rearrange itself as he read, but one section stayed constant. Note: the contract holder may find that resistance to their new circumstances decreases proportionally to exposure to their assigned partner. Side effects may include increased heart rate, persistent thoughts about the color purple, and spontaneous acceptance of multiverse theory. Matt thought about Z's smile, about the way she looked at him like he was the most interesting thing in multiple dimensions. He thought about his lonely apartment hunting, about the quiet life he'd convinced himself he wanted. Well, he said to no one in particular, at least it's not boring. From the dining room came the sound of reality being gently rearranged, accompanied by Z's humming in frequencies that probably weren't meant for human ears. Mother-in-law, don't forget to wear the ceremonial headpiece for dinner. It only bites a little. Matt took a deep breath and went to help his alien wife set up for dinner. He had a feeling this was going to be an interesting chapter of his life. If he survived the tentacles, the ceremonial headpiece did in fact bite. Not hard, but enough that Matt spent most of the first day feast trying not to flinch every time it nuzzled his temporal lobe. The tentacles, thankfully, turned out to be more like luminescent pasta, though he could have sworn one of them winked at him. More essence wine, dear son-in-law? Madame Victoria topped off his glass before he could decline. The liquid inside shifted through impossible colors and occasionally hummed. It helps activate the neural bonding process. The what process? Matt watched as his wine glass sprouted tiny crystalline flowers. Mother! Z shot her mother a look that somehow managed to convey disapproval in several dimensions at once. We agreed. No neural manipulation until at least the third date. This is technically our first date, Matt pointed out, then immediately regretted it when both women's eyes lit up. Literally. Oh, how romantic! Z clapped her hands, causing small ripples in reality. Our first official courtship ritual, though technically under Zelviran law, signing the contract counted as our engagement ceremony. The house inspection was our betrothal, and that moment you looked at me in the kitchen this morning qualified as... More tentacles, Matt interrupted desperately, reaching for the floating serving dish. These are actually pretty good. They're synthesized from your favorite flavor memories, Z explained proudly. I extracted them while you were sleeping. Matt choked. You did what while I was sleeping? Just a surface scan. Z patted his hand reassuringly, sending pleasant tingles up his arm. Nothing invasive, though you do have the most fascinating dreams about coding in zero gravity. Speaking of work, Madame Victoria interjected smoothly. How do you plan to handle the integration process with your human colleagues, dear son-in-law? Matt's heart sank. Work. He had completely forgotten about having to go back to his very normal, very human IT job tomorrow. How exactly was he supposed to explain? Don't worry, Z said brightly, clearly picking up his panic. I've been studying Earth office culture extensively. I've prepared several convincing human outfits and practiced suppressing my natural bioluminescence. You're coming to my office? Of course. As your new wife, It's traditional to bring you lunch and meet your work tribe, isn't it? I saw it in several Earth romance documentaries. Those weren't documentaries, they were romantic comedies, and Matt's protest was cut short by his wine glass, which had started serenading them with what sounded like a cross between Beethoven's Fifth and Whale Song. Oh, how lovely, Madame Victoria beamed. The Essence wine approves of your union. Such a good omen. Mother, you're embarrassing him, Z chided, though she was smiling too. His aura is turning the most interesting shade of mortified. Matt took a long drink of his musical wine, wondering if it was possible to die of surreal embarrassment. The headpiece chose that moment to nuzzle his ear affectionately. The next morning, Matt woke to find his alarm clock hovering 6 inches above the nightstand, gently pulsing in time with what appeared to be the vibrations of the universe. He stared at it for a long moment before remembering the events of the previous day. Good morning, husband, Z's voice called from somewhere downstairs, accompanied by sounds that definitely weren't standard kitchen noises. I'm making you breakfast. Don't mind the distortions. They'll settle down once the stove calibrates to this dimension. Matt dragged himself to the bathroom, only to find that his toothbrush had been upgraded overnight. It now featured what the helpful holographic display called interdimensional plaque removal and parallel universe freshness. By the time he made it downstairs, Z had somehow managed to create a breakfast that looked almost normal. If you ignored the way the bacon occasionally shifted through the color spectrum and the eggs that seemed to be having an existential conversation with each other. I made coffee too. Z presented him with a mug that literally sparkled, with just a tiny enhancement to help you focus at work. Nothing major, just a slight modification to your perception of linear time. Matt took a cautious sip. The coffee was perfect, and suddenly he could see his upcoming meetings laid out like a temporal roadmap in his mind. That's, actually kind of helpful, he admitted. Z beamed, her silver hair shimmering with pleasure. She was wearing what appeared to be one of his dress shirts, though he was certain the fabric hadn't been able to alter its opacity levels before. I also packed your lunch. She gestured to a sleek container on the counter. Don't worry, it's all Earth-compatible food, though the sandwich might try to optimize itself for your nutritional needs throughout the day. Matt was about to ask exactly what that meant when his phone buzzed. A text from his team lead. Emergency meeting this morning. Client-server crisis. Bring coffee. Oh no! Z's eyes lit up with excitement. A crisis? Should I come help? I'm quite good with advanced computing, and I could probably stabilize their servers across multiple dimensions. No! Matt grabbed his keys. I mean, thank you, but maybe we should wait before introducing you to my coworkers. Let me handle this one the human way. Z's face fell slightly, causing the kitchen lights to dim in sympathy. Of course. You're right. Too soon for interdimensional tech support, she brightened. But I'll still bring you lunch later. I've been practicing looking human. Watch. She concentrated and her violet skin flickered briefly to a more human tone. The effect lasted about 3 seconds before her natural bioluminescence reasserted itself. That's, really impressive, Matt lied, backing toward the door. But maybe we should wait on the office visit, too. Just until I've had a chance to, prepare them. Oh. Z's hair drooped slightly, taking on a silvery gray tinge. Yes, of course, wouldn't want to disrupt your normal human life. The stove made a sad, whirring noise. Matt felt a twinge of guilt, but he was already running late. We'll talk more tonight, okay? Thank you for breakfast. And the time-bending coffee, and the... Actually, what is this lunch container made of? Just a simple phase-shifted alloy. Z perked up slightly. It exists in multiple states simultaneously to keep your food at optimal temperature. Don't worry if it starts humming. That's just it trying to achieve harmony with your digestive system. Right, of course. Matt headed for the door, then paused. Z, the shirt thing, it looks good on you. Her smile lit up the room, literally, and the stove purred with satisfaction. The drive to work was interesting. His car had apparently bonded with the house's alien tech overnight, and the navigation system now offered helpful suggestions like convert to plasma form for faster transit and warning temporal traffic jam ahead. Would you like to skip to next Tuesday? The office looked jarringly normal after his surreal morning. Plain walls, fluorescent lights, the smell of cheap coffee. No interdimensional rifts or advanced technology in sight. Matt felt himself relax slightly. Then he opened his upgraded lunch container in the break room. Dude, did your sandwich just wave at me? His colleague Steve peered over his shoulder. It's, one of those Japanese robot lunch boxes, Matt improvised. Very high tech. Monitors freshness. Cool, where'd you get it? My wife got it for me. Steve's eyebrows shot up. Wife? Since when are you married? I thought you just got divorced like 2 months ago. It's a recent development, Matt muttered, trying to convince his sandwich to stop attempting to rearrange itself into the most nutritionally optimal configuration. Must be some woman to get you back in the game so fast. Steve grinned. When do we get to meet her? As if summoned by the question, Matt's phone lit up with a text from Z. Missing you, husband. The stove says you're experiencing stress. Should I bring you some calming essence tea? I've almost perfected my human disguise. Attached was a selfie where she was attempting to look human. She'd managed to suppress most of her bioluminescence, but her hair was still definitely moving on its own, and there was a distinct aurora borealis effect around her edges. Soon, Matt told Steve weakly. She's just adjusting to the area. Very foreign. Different culture. You know how it is. Cool, cool. Hey, is your lunchbox humming the theme from Close Encounters? Matt quickly closed the container. Must be a glitch. Japanese technology. Very experimental. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of server crashes and client complaints, though Matt had to admit the time-bending coffee made it much more manageable. He could literally see the solutions unfolding in temporal space before the problems even fully manifested. Around noon, another message came through from Z. Husband, I know you said to wait, but there's a small situation at home. The stove has achieved sentience and is now trying to optimize all reality for perfect toast. Also, I think I'm starting to glow more than usual. Is that normal for human wives? He was about to respond when his team lead stuck her head in his office. Hey, Matt, the client server is acting weird again. It's like the code is evolving, and did someone install a new OS? The interface keeps shifting through different dimensions. Just then, another text arrived from Madame Victoria. Dear son-in-law, just checking. Has Z entered her luminescent phase yet? It's about that time in her cycle. Do try to keep her away from any electromagnetic sensitive equipment when it happens. Last time, she accidentally upgraded an entire Best Buy. Such a hassle with the cleanup crews. Matt looked at his half-eaten lunch, which was definitely humming now, then at his phone displaying Z's increasingly luminescent messages, then at his computer screen where the code was indeed starting to exhibit signs of consciousness. I can explain, he started, just as reality hiccuped and his desk lamp began lecturing about the nature of existence in 15-dimensional space. The afternoon devolved into chaos faster than Matt could have imagined. His team lead was still trying to understand why their clients' servers were suddenly processing information in ways that defied the laws of physics, while Steve kept insisting that Matt's sandwich had tried to give him financial advice. His phone buzzed continuously with updates from home. Z, good news. I've convinced the stove to stop trying to achieve universal toast dominance. Bad news. I may be glowing enough to be visible from space. Is this going to be a problem for maintaining our cover? Madame Victoria, son-in-law, do remind Z that during her luminescent phase, she should avoid looking directly at any satellites. We don't want another incident like last time. The NASA cleanup crew was most understanding, but still. Matt was about to fake a medical emergency and flee the office when his team lead gasped. The servers, they're singing? Through his office wall, Matt could hear the unmistakable sound of harmonized alien code. He recognized the melody. It was the same song his wine glass had performed at dinner the night before. Must be a virus, he said weakly. I'll take care of it. But the performance metrics are off the charts. Whatever this is, it's making our systems run 1,000 times faster. The client is actually calling to thank us. Before Matt could respond, his lunch container started harmonizing with the servers, creating what was actually a pretty impressive musical number about the nature of technological evolution. Steve stuck his head in again. Hey, Matt, is your wife by any chance Not from around here? Like, really not from around here? Why would you ask that? Matt tried to casually cover his phone screen, which was now displaying Z's latest selfie, complete with full aurora borealis effect and floating hair. Well, either I'm having a psychotic break, or your sandwich just explained the unified theory of everything to me. Also, I'm pretty sure I can see through time now. Matt was saved from having to answer by another text from Z. Husband! Great news! I've figured out how to control the glowing. Mostly, the neighbors are being very understanding about their temporarily translucent houses. Also, your mother-in-law is coming over for dinner again. She's bringing something called Essence of Enlightenment for dessert. Should I warn the local reality matrix? Looking at his concerned colleagues, his evolving computer systems, and his philosophical lunch, Matt made a decision. Some things were just too complicated to hide. So, about my new wife, he began. She's kind of different. As if on cue, every electronic device in the office began playing what was unmistakably an alien love song, while his sandwich arranged itself into the shape of a heart. It was going to be an interesting explanation. Matt's office situation had somehow resolved itself with surprising ease. After his colleagues witnessed his lunch deliver a philosophical treatise on existence, followed by his computer systems achieving enlightenment, trying to hide Z's true nature seemed pointless, especially when she showed up anyway, glowing like a supernova in what she thought was a subtle human outfit. To his shock, instead of panic, his coworkers were fascinated. Wit people, it turned out, were surprisingly chill about alien technology. His team lead was especially thrilled about their system's new capabilities, even if they had to occasionally talk the servers down from achieving digital nirvana. But work was the least of Matt's problems now. Husband, Z purred one evening, lounging on their couch in what appeared to be starlight woven into fabric. Is the temperature regulation in this dwelling functioning correctly? I find myself unusually warm. Matt tried not to stare at the way her skin shimmed with an inner fire, or how her silver hair floated in an invisible breeze. The AC is fine. Are you feeling okay? Oh, she stretched languorously, causing small ripples in the local reality field. It's just that time in my biological cycle. My species experiences what you might call a heated phase every few Earth years. A what now? Mother didn't mention it. Z's eyes glowed brighter. How forgetful of her. It's a perfectly natural process where our biochemistry becomes intensified, enhanced, some might say explosive. As if to demonstrate, a small burst of energy crackled around her, leaving scorch marks on the ceiling. Should I be concerned about this? Matt asked, trying to maintain his composure as waves of what felt like electromagnetic attraction pulsed through the room. Only if you continue to resist our obvious compatibility. Z floated closer, her skin literally radiating heat. I've been studying human courtship rituals. Would you like to Netflix and actually chill? The temperature regulation in my body could use some manual adjustment. Matt backed away, bumping into a wall that definitely hadn't been there a moment ago. Z, we talked about this. The marriage thing, it's complicated. We barely know each other. I know you better than you think. She moved closer, her hair creating a silver aurora around them. I know how your heart rate increases when I'm near, how your brainwaves harmonize with mine, how you dream about me in ways that make the local stellar phenomena blush. That's just biology, and possibly alien pheromones. And whatever you did to the coffee maker, Z's laugh sent pleasant shivers through multiple dimensions. Oh, husband, still fighting it? Even when your every molecule is singing for mine? She wasn't wrong. Ever since her heated phase began, Matt had found it increasingly difficult to think straight around her. Her presence was like gravity, pulling him in despite his best efforts to maintain orbit. I have meetings tomorrow, he said weakly. Important ones, with humans, who probably wouldn't appreciate if I showed up glowing. Then we'll have to find other ways to release this energy. Z's fingertips traced patterns in the air that left trails of light. Did you know that during this phase, my species can share consciousness? Every thought, every feeling, every desire. A spark jumped between them, And suddenly, Matt could feel what she was feeling. An overwhelming surge of attraction, yes, but also something deeper. Genuine affection, admiration, a desire not just for physical connection, but for understanding. Z, he breathed, his resistance wavering. I know you feel it too. Her voice was soft, but it resonated through him like a cosmic hum. This isn't just some alien mating ritual. Well, technically it is, but it's more than that. I chose you, Matt, not just because of some contract or genetic compatibility. Why did you choose me? The question had been burning in him since that first morning. Because you see me. Her glow dimmed slightly, becoming more intimate than spectacular. Not just the alien technology or the interdimensional abilities. You see me when I'm trying too hard to be human, when I'm making mistakes, when I'm turning your appliances sentient by accident. You make me feel at home. The sincerity in her voice hit him harder than any of her alien pheromones. Matt realized with startling clarity that somewhere between the singing wine glasses and the philosophical sandwiches, he'd stopped seeing her as an alien complication and started seeing her as Z. Just Zia, who made him laugh, who turned every mundane moment into an adventure, who looked at him like he was the most fascinating being in multiple dimensions. This is crazy, he said, but he was already reaching for her. We're from different planets, different species, different dimensions. Z smiled, her whole body pulsing with light. Sometimes the best connections transcend conventional space-time. When their lips met, reality didn't just spark, it sang. Every atom in Matt's body felt like it was dancing with joy. Somewhere in the house, all the appliances started performing what sounded like an interdimensional love symphony. His phone buzzed. Madame Viltoria. Finally, the local star systems were taking bets on how long you'd resist. Do try to keep the reality distortions to a minimum during your connection. Last time a Zelviran binding occurred in this sector, 3 parallel universes had to be realigned. But congratulations, dear son-in-law. Matt barely noticed the text. He was too busy discovering that kissing an alien during her heated phase could literally make you see stars. Actual stars, supernovas, and what might have been the birth of new galaxies. Still think this is just biology? Z whispered against his lips. I think, Matt replied, pulling her closer, that I'm done trying to make this fit into normal human parameters. Their second kiss created enough energy to power a small city. Somewhere in the distance, a satellite briefly lost its orbit, and all the streetlights in their neighborhood started spelling out love poems in Morse code. It was going to be an interesting night, and somehow Matt was perfectly okay with that. The morning after their reality-bending kiss, Matt woke to find his bedroom floating 3 feet off the ground. Z lay beside him, her silver hair creating constellations on the pillows, her violet skin still glowing with residual energy. Morning, husband, she murmured, opening eyes that literally sparkled. Did you know that your dreams last night created 2 new nebulae? The astronomical community is quite excited. Matt was about to respond when his phone buzzed. An email from work. Unprecedented server performance and reality distortions. Emergency meeting required. I should probably go explain why our IT systems are now achieving consciousness, Matt sighed, trying to figure out how to get down from the floating bed. Or, Z stretched, causing small auroras to dance around the room. We could stay here, and I could teach you how to manipulate space-time. It was tempting, extremely tempting. But as Matt watched a news alert scroll across his phone about unexplained astronomical phenomena over Los Angeles, reality, or what passed for it these days, began to sink in. Z, he started carefully, about last night. Yes? She propped herself up on one elbow, her hair weaving itself into impossible geometric patterns. The part where we almost created a new dimension, or the part where you finally admitted you're in love with me? Both. I mean, Matt ran a hand through his hair, which was still slightly charged with interdimensional energy. This is amazing. You're amazing. But how does this actually work? I'm human. Well, you make supernovas when you sneeze. Is that a problem? Z's glow dimmed slightly. No. Yes, maybe. Matt struggled to find the right words. I just don't want either of us to get hurt because we're rushing into something without thinking about the practical implications. Practical implications? Z's voice took on that musical tone that meant she was trying not to show she was hurt. Like what? Like the fact that our kiss last night apparently disrupted satellite communications, or that our house is currently hovering, or that my toaster has started a support group for sentient appliances. The toaster means well, Z said defensively. It's just going through some existential questions about its purpose in life. Before Matt could respond, his phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. Dear Mr. Winslow, this is the Interspecies Relations Bureau. We've noticed some unusual energy signatures in your area. Please be advised that unauthorized reality modifications require proper permits. Also, congratulations on your relationship status update. Please file Form X742B for mixed species union registration at your earliest convenience. See? Matt waved the phone. There are bureaucracies involved now. Alien bureaucracies. Z sat up fully, her hair crackling with emotional electricity. And that scares you more than the fact that I can bend reality? Nothing scares me more than how much I don't want to lose you, Matt blurted out. The words hung in the air, literally. They manifested as glowing text between them. Z's eyes widened. Matt, but that's exactly why we need to think this through, he continued. There has to be a way to make this work that doesn't involve constantly explaining reality distortions to my boss or filing paperwork with interdimensional agencies. Just then, a shimmering portal opened in their bedroom wall, and Madame Viltoria stepped through, wearing what appeared to be formal diplomatic attire. Oh, good, you're both awake, she said, casually adjusting a tiara that seemed to be made of crystallized starlight. We need to discuss the situation. Mother! Z pulled the sheets higher, though they had started to phase through multiple dimensions. We're having a private conversation. About the contract loophole? Yes? Madame Viltoria produced a glowing document from thin air. The one that allows for dissolution of the agreement if the human partner can prove fundamental incompatibility with interdimensional living. Matt's heart stopped. There's a way out of the contract. The moment the words left his mouth, he regretted them. Z's glow didn't just dim, it went out completely, leaving her looking more solid and vulnerable than he'd ever seen her. Of course there is, she said quietly. I never wanted to trap you, Matt. No, that's not what I... The paperwork is quite simple, Madame Viltoria continued, though her eyes were sharp as she watched them both. Just sign here. State for the record that you find interdimensional marriage too challenging, and everything returns to normal. Your house will stop floating, your appliances will forget they ever achieved consciousness, and all reality distortions will be reversed. And Zai? Matt asked, his throat tight. We'll be reassigned to another candidate, of course. There are many humans who would be thrilled to... No. The word came out with such force that the local reality field rippled. No! Both alien women looked at him. No, Matt repeated, standing up. I don't want normal. I don't want simple. I don't want a life where toasters can't have existential crises or where my wife doesn't create new stars when she laughs. Matt, Z began, her glow slowly returning. I've been trying to figure out how to make this fit into a normal human life, he continued, when the whole point is that it's not normal. It's extraordinary. You're extraordinary. He turned to Madame Viltoria. With all due respect, mother-in-law, you can take your loophole and throw it into whatever dimension you'd like. I'm not signing anything. The formal diplomatic mask on Madame Viltoria's face cracked into a wide smile. Well, it seems my daughter's instincts about you were correct after all. They usually are, Z said, her full radiance returning with such force that several new constellations probably formed. Wait, Matt looked between them. Was this a test? Everything's a test, dear son-in-law, Madame Viltoria said cheerfully, though I must say, you passed this one with far more style than we expected. Most humans take at least 6 months to embrace interdimensional living. To be fair, Z floated over to Matt, trailing stardust, most humans don't have me as motivation. Matt pulled her close, not caring that her touch made reality shimmer around them. So there was never really a loophole? Oh, there was, Madame Victoria assured him. Still is, but only someone truly incompatible would choose it over. She gestured at her daughter, who was currently making the laws of physics reconsider their life choices just by existing. Then I have a better idea for this contract. Matt took the glowing document from his mother-in-law's hands. Z, would you marry me? Properly this time? No rental agreements, no diplomatic clauses, just us choosing this crazy, impossible, wonderful life together? Z's joy literally lit up the sky. Several neighbors would later report seeing the aurora borealis over Los Angeles. Yes, she said, and when she kissed him, reality didn't just bend, it danced. Madame Victoria dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief that might have been woven from dark matter. Well, I suppose we should start planning the ceremony. A proper Zelviran wedding requires at least 3 dimensions and usually causes minor temporal anomalies. 6 months later, more essence wine? Matt offered the hovering decanter to their dinner guests. The living room was full of what appeared to be normal human couples, if you ignored the occasional shimmer of non-standard biology or the way some of them had to concentrate to maintain their human appearances. Your house is lovely, Sarah from accounting said, her skin briefly shifting to its natural blue hue as she relaxed. The interdimensional layout really opens up the space. Thanks. Though the bathroom still occasionally relocates to the Andromeda Galaxy, Matt admitted. We're working on that. Better than our place, Steve chimed in, his third eye briefly visible. Our kitchen achieved enlightenment last week and now refuses to prepare anything but perfect cosmic harmony. Oh, that happened to us too, Z floated in with more appetizers. Just reset the existential parameters and remind it that even enlightened appliances need to serve a purpose. Matt watched his wife move through the room, casually defying several laws of physics while chatting about interdimensional home maintenance. She caught him staring and winked, sending a small cascade of shooting stars through the living room. His phone buzzed, a message from the Interspecies Relations Bureau. Annual Mixed Marriage Satisfaction Survey due next week. Please note, reality distortions caused by excessive happiness require separate permits. Matt smiled and slipped his arm around his wife, feeling the familiar tingle of her energy harmonizing with his. Around them, their human friends gradually let their disguises fade, revealing a gathering that would have sent most of NASA into cardiac arrest. The toaster, which had finally worked through its existential crisis and now moonlighted as a philosophical advisor, chose that moment to start a rousing discussion about the nature of love across dimensional boundaries. Having second thoughts about choosing this life? Z asked softly, her hair creating a private aurora around them. Matt pulled her closer, not caring that their contact was making all the electronics in the house start performing love songs in alien frequencies. Only about why I ever wanted normal in the first place, he said, and kissed her. Somewhere in the cosmos, a new star blazed to life, probably in violation of several interdimensional regulations. Matt found he didn't mind the paperwork at all.